Welcome back to the Mind Goals podcast, hosted by yours truly, Siobhan Higgins, sport and performance psychology consultant, yoga instructor, and professional soccer player. Today, I am so excited for you guys to meet our special guest, who is one of my longest lifelong best friends from the second grade school bus, as a matter of fact. She is really hard to pin down. I tried to get her here for months and months, so this is a super rare occasion to have her here in the flesh. It is an honor to have a 3-time world champion in cheerleading, the head coach of National Team Netherlands, and many more. She does many more things. But here we have her, Miss Giovanna Smith.
Hey, everybody. I am super excited to be here. I mean, I've been watching your podcast from all of the various places that I am in the world, but to be sitting on the couch that I've been watching and actually being here, yes, it took a second to pin me down, but here I am.
Yeah.
In the flesh. That's why the second that I was like, I'm going to Katie, I'm like, I have to let her know because I know she's been trying to do this. So if there was one thing on the very short 48-hour itinerary, it was going to be here.
I was about to say there's like a small 48-hour, like 72-hour time frame. And I was like, hey, by any chance you have an hour of your time to talk about fun things?
Well, I mean, fun things is literally the one thing I do is cheerleading all day, all night. I travel for it. I do it all the time. So if there's one thing I could go on and on about and talk about forever, it is cheerleading.
Which is perfect because my podcast, as many of you know, is really dedicated to the mindset of any athlete, coaches, you name it, something in sport. And I think that cheerleading hasn't been recognized in the world as a sport. It is a sport. It should be well respected, and I'm happy to have you here so that you can tell more people about the mindset behind it, what it takes to be a cheerleader, what it takes to honestly go through the process, because it is a hard sport and people need to know more about it.
I think too the biggest misconception is that, I mean, the Netflix show Cheer came out and that definitely gave people like an eye-opening experience.
Yeah.
But before that, when you say cheerleading, whether it's here or in other parts of the world, to people that aren't in the sport, automatically they think sideline. They think like go team, rah, rah, rah. But that is just one of even the smallest segments. Like, yes, you are a crowd leader, but the competitive aspect is why most people do it. It's to compete, it's to be on the mat. And that simple, it's actually not simple at all. That segment in itself is why these girls do the other part. Yeah. Yes, the Friday Night Lights is cool, but they're doing it to be on the competitive team.
Yeah.
And college scholarships are on the competitive teams.
Yeah.
So that is the part of the sport that most people don't see. And actually one of the things that I wanted to be able to be on here for is not only just like to talk about the sport, because yes, it is great to bring awareness to the sport, but there's so many things that we are training as in the sport of competitive cheer that I think other athletes could benefit from and other coaches could benefit from. And it's not really just sports specific. Mm-hmm. And we forget that they are athletes at the end of the day. Yeah. They do train like athletes, like any other sport does.
Yeah. And an athletic mindset and the work put in behind is applicable across all sports and then even after sports, which is what I talk about on my podcast with other people as well, that your sport for a long time is your life, but you gain so much skills and so much experience from your sport that eventually you take it into a different type of professional setting. And you learned all of this, like your work ethic, right? You're currently not competing as a cheerleader right now.
No, that is far beyond me.
Yeah, but you're a coach. And it's led you to other endeavors. I also forgot to mention, Gio started her own travel business called GTFO. I'll let you figure that one out yourself. Link it later.
But obviously it means group travel figured out.
Mm-hmm. And if you want to get the heck out anywhere that doesn't add up, then you know where to find her. But I will want to rewind real quick because I always like to start with how we met. And I'll give my point of view, you give yours. But Gio and I grew up living in the same neighborhood in Katy, Texas. And we met on the second grade school bus, then became BFFs for life in like the third grade. But I remember... and for more people to know,
it was the hair.
It was the hair.
The hair was a connecting factor.
It was. It was. And I, just for knowledge, like Gio's the cheer friend, and I was super tomboy when I was younger. I was like a little boy, to be honest, until like
literally
the 7th grade, maybe 8th grade. I just didn't care about clothes. I didn't care about shopping, makeup. Like that wasn't me. It was sports. And anyway, one day,
like nobody took field day more as a competitive sport than you did. Like to me, field day was like the one day that I'm like, I surely don't have to go to school today. And Siobhan was like, okay, healthy breakfast, 10 push-ups in the morning. Like, is my outfit going to be athletic for all the games today? Did I score enough points? Like,
it's just
it
not
was a
wrong.
mental prep. And I was like, Mom, everybody's just going to play recess all day. Please don't let me go.
Play recess. And for me, it was the Olympics. Like
It was the literal Olympics.
Speaking of Olympics going on right now, but
So
you're so
you would be
right.
ready.
It's not whatever she said is not even. It's not dramatic at all. It's I had a specific meal the night before. I had like 10 hours sleep. You better believe I laid out my outfit the night before with a matching
course.
scrunchie or whatever, and I was gonna exert myself. I would tell my mom, "Come outside and watch me, Mom," and she would be at the gates watching me going, across the field.
And I'm telling my mom, you can totally pick me up at 12. Like, it's fine. Like, early dismissal. No, it's not actually early dismissal, but I am dismissing myself early. Pick me up, Mom.
So we were very different. But on the school bus this one year, second grade, and I remember Gio having like a slick back bun. And I have super curly hair, super frizzy hair. It's not frizzy at the moment. But I remember like my mom would put my hair in like a slick back bun or a ponytail, and there'd be like these little frizzies like this. And I remember walking by and I'm like, oh, hold on. And I stop. And it was so like documented, like it was so documentary of the experience. I looked at her and I was like, hey, how did you get your hair so slick back? Like, why don't you have any frizzies? And you're like, hair gel. And I think it was like that green and white, like bio something. You know what I'm talking about with the leaf, that logo?
Yeah.
And you told me, and I was like, oh, hair gel. And I was like, okay, heck
Mind you,
yeah.
I had a nanny that did my hair for me every morning. Perfectly slicked back, perfect pigtails, perfect whatever creative hairstyle I wanted from whatever Kids Bop album was out at that moment.
Yeah.
And I did want the butterfly clips, and it needed to look absolutely perfect and slick back. But I also did like ballet at the most intense ballet school that was known to man because my mom was all about discipline. Yes, I was not sporty, but like I always went to, it was like a signups only ballet academy.
Okay.
And before that, when I lived in Mexico, it was a Russian ballet school. So I always grew up in sports of like disciplinary things for girls. So like at age 5, I was in a ballet school that forced me to put my own hair up in a bun that was perfect. And if any of your hairs were out, you couldn't go into class. And I was like 5 or 6.
Oh, wow.
And so my mom believed like heavily in, my brother did Taekwondo again, because it's like discipline and respect and like self-control and all of that. And so because of that, I grew up from a young age already understanding that sports were like fun, but they were there to like do a job essentially. Cool. Like you were there in a disciplinary factor. You weren't there to play around. You weren't there. You were there to excel in what you were doing.
That's
so even from like a really young age, my mom never promoted sports as go there and have fun. It was like go there and learn to be disciplined and then use that in your lifetime. So that's why we started at such like really competitive schools from a young age and really, I mean, pretty straight edge type of academies where you couldn't really slack off or you couldn't be, it wasn't a fun recreational program. It was one where you learned how to be disciplined at a young age.
I actually didn't know that. And that makes a lot of sense. And definitely like the path, I mean, you ended up in cheerleading. And you did some gymnastics before tumbling, I'm assuming. And then ballet and dance makes sense. Yeah, those are sports that like scrutinize.
Gymnastics was because of that. My mom was an Olympic, like she did the Olympic gymnast, you know, she wasn't in the Olympics, but that's the type of training that she was in. And so when she put Donovan in the like super academies, Dynamo Academy, what was it, Texas Premier, all of those, I was in an equally competitive side on my end where it was like, you aren't just here for fun. If this is what you are enjoying and this is what you like to do, this is, you're going to do it in the best capability possible. So I went to a very strict gymnastics gym, even from like a young age. It was here in Texas called Oni's. And my coaches were very straight edge as well. We weren't jumping around and playing. It was like, this is what you're doing. This is your job. And this is how you become the best athlete ultimately. There's always talent, but discipline is what changes athletes. That is what makes you from a great athlete to an excellent athlete.
I would agree.
Because the talent will be there in both athletes, but one is always more disciplined than the other. And that's why there's first and second.
Yeah. I definitely agree with that. And for those people who don't know, I did gymnastics too when I was younger, probably from the ages like 4 to 8. And that taught me a lot of discipline as well. And it's not a sport you play or play. You do for fun. It's not like, it is fun and rewarding, but it's very serious and very matter of fact. I remember getting in trouble all the time and having to do so many push-ups. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to have these little guns as like a 4-year-old, but it's because I'm misbehaving.
But for me, like, that's actually funny that you say that, because like for you in sports with soccer and field day and all of that, like you took it super seriously, right? But like for me, when I was in practice, or like even when I was in gymnastics, I never got in trouble. I never got snapped at, or I never got anything like that, because my sole focus was how do I become the best at this sport? How do I become the best in what I'm doing right now? Right. And that just shows you, like, when you are committed into the sport that you're doing, essentially, that's what drives you to become the best. But you've got, and I think sometimes a lot of parents put their kids in sports because they want to. Yeah. So I think it's really important that you look at, like, what do your kids enjoy doing? Yeah. Show them, expose them to things, but like, what's going to tack onto them, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah. I talked about that with my dad in another podcast, because they put me in a bunch of sports really because I had so much energy and they wanted me to just get out there and do things. And I did like soccer, swimming, track, volleyball, softball, whatever. And, essentially soccer was the one that stuck with me, soccer and basketball. And then they were like, okay, are you going to be serious about it? And then when I was serious about it, then like, this is for like, we're going to invest in it now, like actually financially invest. And so you need to take it seriously. And for me, I was always talented in like a handful of sports. I was athletic, but discipline is what will set me apart, or what actually took me to the next level, because you can show up and be talented, but it's a cliche, but it's like hard, when talent doesn't work hard.
No, what is it?
When hard
work beats talent, when talent fails to work hard.
Correct. And that's so true.
How you know we both know that quote.
Yes. So true. And it's so true. It really is.
It is. And at the same time, I think a lot of athletes, like me coaching specifically, like I know you're coaching right now as well, but I coach at a high school level. I coach at a college level. And athletes now, you have some really dedicated ones, and then you have some that are just on the team, right? Yeah. And I think one of my biggest goals as a coach is when you walk into my program, because people say, oh my God, you're so strict, you're so rigid, you're so straight edge, you're so this. They're like, this is like the military. Yeah, this is like the military. Because at the end of the day, if you're going to invest your time in this, I want to make you the best. Yeah. I want to teach you how to be the best, so that when your time here is done, you are fulfilled with what we accomplished on this team. Mm-hmm. And now, why am I so picky on you wore the wrong socks? You showed up in the wrong shirt. Yes, those are black shorts, but those are not our black shorts. Yes, you're 2 minutes late. 2 minutes, you had traffic. That's just too bad. And people are like, oh my God, that's so intense. But it's not intense. Because when these girls leave my program and they go into the real world and they go into college, or they go into their regular jobs, you can't be a surgeon and say, oh, well, I just didn't have my scrubs that day. I didn't do laundry. No, this is your job. Yeah. Oh, but I'm just going to be a little bit late because of traffic. No, this is your job. Yeah. And so it's like when you start teaching even high school age kids this discipline, at first it's like mind-boggling. Yeah. And at first they're like, oh my God, this is crazy. She's strict. She's mean. Meow, meow, meow. Okay. But then when they leave my program, these kids are not setting up to be a regular person. They are someone who is ready to take on a career, to excel in their career, to take a management role. Yeah. And I want them to leave my program. Yes, good cheerleaders, but you know what? Even better humans at life. Yes. I want them to leave better humans at life.
Good. And I feel like you've already had students that have come back to you, and like I've seen the comments just on social media, but I know that you are good at what you do. And so people come back to you, say like, oh, there was a reason you did that, or oh, thank you so much because you taught me this and now I'm here at life. Right? Yeah.
And it's sometimes a hard push for coaches to make, because they're like, oh, well, that just might be too much, or that, they might not really like that. I want them to enjoy it here. You know what they enjoy? They enjoy being successful. Yeah. And so what you should want is to make them as successful as they can in their time with you, especially because a lot of them don't have that at home.
Yeah. It's a good point, because a coach, I would say, I've said this before, but a coach is like a teacher, and at times like a parent, because not everyone is, the word I'm looking for, fortunate to have a parent or figure that helps them in that regard. So a lot of people lack discipline. A lot of people lack support. They lack guidance. So they look to teachers and coaches for that. And so, I mean, it's great that people like you are coaches and mentors in life. And so I'm excited to talk more about it. Yeah. I do have a few questions, and then obviously we can bounce around them. But I know that everyone's dying to hear. First and foremost, how did you get into cheerleading? So think like what age and where were you? Okay. And then what clubs, Are they called clubs?
Yeah. I mean, essentially you have like your school cheer and then you have like your club cheer.
Okay.
Right? In cheer terms, it's called school cheer and all-star cheer.
Okay.
But in regular sports terms, it is school and club.
Okay, perfect. So I'd like to know what got you into cheerleading? What age were you? Why did you stay in it? And then where did you cheer?
So I was doing gymnastics for a while, and I got my first rip on my hand, which is when you're doing bars and your skin rips off your friggin' hand. I mean, first of all, I couldn't even fathom the fact that this even happened. I'm like,
the callus.
I'm like, is this child abuse right now? Because this is the first time it happened. So obviously I was like losing my marbles. And my mom was like, oh, you got one rip? She's like, oh, you should have seen my hands when I was in gymnastics. And I'm like, maybe we are not built the same, right? But I did realize that I like the floor part of gymnastics, which is the tumbling, the flips, the tricks for regular terms. That's what it is. And she was like, well, if you don't want to do gymnastics, I can put you into tumbling class, but not doing anything isn't an option. So again, it was like my mom gearing me towards the things I love, but like not doing anything was not an option. So I'm like, okay, well, I don't love gymnastics, don't want this to happen to my hand again, but I do like the flips and the tricks. So she put me in tumbling class. And I was training at this place called Katie Lee in Katy.
Yes.
TVT, right?
And you brought me there for like open gym. And like
I needed you to cheer. And
I
you were out here trying to kick balls around. Okay.
And what age were we at this point? This
10.
is 10. Okay,
I was in 5th grade.
Yes. Yep.
4th maybe.
Yeah.
No, I think it was 4th or 5th. It doesn't matter. Whatever.
I just want people to know when you started. 9, 10 years old.
I remember watching the club team that always practiced there. And it's like, I would be in my class, but I was watching them and they were doing their stunts and they were doing everything. Mind you, competitive cheerleading does not actually cheer. And I need everybody to be aware of that. There is no cheers or chants being say, no go team, no hoorah, none of that. That is all sideline collegiate football style, right? So club teams are strictly doing a routine that is 2 minutes and 30 seconds of no mess ups. So like any club routine is 2 minutes and 30 seconds of music. How many difficult skills can you do back to back without a single error? And that's what you're based off of, right? So that's why you put so much work into it, because you have 2 minutes and 30 seconds essentially to not fuck it up.
Yeah.
And if you do, well, then try again next year.
Yeah, next year, literally like a whole year.
Right. Where in other sports, you like have some time essentially to make it up. You miss a goal, you might still have 45 minutes of this game.
Yeah.
You miss a basket,
Yeah.
yes, you will still have time to make that up. Here, and it's like make a pass it to the next guy. That guy's got his own talent, he'll do his thing. Here you have to collaboratively work together with someone who has got a completely different brain than you to make one skill happen at a perfection level.
And truly perfection. Like there's no error of margin.
There's no shaking. Even doing a flip, if you put your hand on the ground, you might as well have fallen on your face. Damn. It doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, there's a way to do things and it's the right way, right? And that is a lot of the reason that I teach so strictly like that with technique and execution, because I don't want my girls to ever go on the floor and say, I wish I had trained harder, or like I should have done more reps, or like I just missed the grip. And I always tell my girls, I'm like, who doesn't care if you miss a grip? Who doesn't care if your hand slipped? Who doesn't care if she didn't get there on time? A judge. All they see is deduction, 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 deduction. So if I don't train you to create that mindset and practices now where errors, missed grips, or even the slightest spit doesn't feel correct, then you'll go out there and compete hoping to hit. I want to train you to hit, knowing you'll hit. And if something happens, it just wasn't your day, but it wasn't because you didn't train hard enough.
Yeah.
You get me?
Yeah. Like it's more of a luck factor, or like some freak accident or some sort of sickness or like a injury or something.
Yeah, you can never be perfect, but.
Yeah. But that is the actual goal, is perfection.
Yes. And so when I started the sport back then, I started on this club team, and I saw what they were doing, and I'm like, I want to be a part of that. I want to do that. It looks difficult. I'm not really sure how you do it. I don't even understand how people like are held up in the air. But that's where I want to be. Mm-hmm. And so that itself, tells you that you love a sport.
Yeah. So 9, 10-year-old Gio started this spark for passion for cheerleading. And then where did you go next?
I ended up growing up in Texas, doing it here for a while. Then my parents went through a divorce. Mm-hmm. And the best club team in the world was called, to me, and is Sorry for anybody who hates me for that. Because I know a lot of people will probably watch this, but it's Top Gun, right?
Okay.
So to me, it was my dream to be at Top Gun. I'm like, I'm always going to be there. That's exactly the sign. Go Jags, right?
How did I know that?
I always said I was going to be there, and my parents got divorced. I ended up going to see my mom in Miami while she was working there for a bit and training with them. And the literal universe friggin' aligned.
That is so cool.
Bro, the universe aligned. And the year I said I was going to be there, I ended up there. There was a coach that changed my life because he saw me and he saw something in me. Again, it's how coaches don't know the effect they have on you. Like to me, this coach changed my life. Yeah. My life is what it is today because he existed in it.
I love that.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
His name's Greg Gazal. So if anybody knows him, tag him in this video. But he was, I always tell him, I told him before that he's like an angel that changed my life because he took me there. Mm-hmm. And I got to be part of this team called Lady Jags. And then the next Top Gun team that people want to be on is TGLC. And so I got to do a year with Greg. And again, because he brought me, he believed in me, he saw something in me. Then things got difficult. And I was like, oh, I don't know how I'm going to move there. I don't know how I'm going to do this. And he was like, no, we're going to do this. He talked to my uncle. My uncle said I could live with him. You get me? And so then I ended up moving there. Mm-hmm. He talked to the coaches for the next upcoming tryout. I made Large Co-Ed, Top Gun Large Co-Ed, which is the other team that people dream to be on. Mm-hmm. And again, this one single coach changed my entire life.
How old were you at this time?
At this point, I was 16. No, 16 when I moved to Greg. Finished the year, I was 17. And I was 18 when I started Large Co-Ed.
Yeah, and I want everyone to know, because we can't just assume people know, Gio moved states to cheer and moved away from her family and moved away from everyone she knew to Miami, Florida, to live with her uncle just to pursue cheerleading.
But and here's where I go back. It's like, if I've already been dedicating every living moment of my days to be the best here in Texas, and I'm in a great program, but my dream program, who is the best in the world, wants me. Yeah. I've already invested this whole time. So to me, picking up my entire life and having to start from zero to be with the best was the only right option. Yeah. Right? It's
a no-brainer. You're like, I'm going to make it happen. I don't know how, but it's happening. Yeah. And you did.
Yeah. So it was, wow. And like I said, that's why it's like, as a coach, you got to be careful as much as like, you got to know what you're doing. You got to be careful because you have no idea how much, like, one of the smallest moves you could make. To him, he was adding an athlete on the team and like, yay, fulfilling a dream. Right. But like, this man essentially changed my life. I've been in Miami for 13 years now. Yeah. I work with Top Gun now. Yeah. I do a lot of their projects. Like, my best friend is one of the coaches from Top Gun. So it's like, this all happened. Actually, all of my friends are from Top Gun, pretty much in Miami. I mean, I have a few that were like through high school and stuff, but my core friends came from Top Gun. And this one move, is the reason that my entire life exists the way it does right now.
And I want to ask you, I know it was difficult because I was your friend, obviously, but how was that? Because being 16, you're still a child. You're moving to a new city, a crazy city. Pretty fun now, obviously, I know. Yeah. But how was that? You moved from public school to a private school. Tell us a little bit about how that transition was for you. Like, was it hard? Did you love it? Did you hate it?
Well, one of my coaches at Top Gun, he got me into the private school I went to because he was an alumni there. Okay. And so he moved the pieces around so I could go to the school. My parents wanted me to go to private school. So whatever, fulfilled. It was a big transition, but here's the thing. Again, I always had the goal. My goal was to be there. Yeah. So what was my job? My job was, I got hired by this team, essentially. I didn't get hired. But again, it's when I go back talking to, like, once you commit to sports in this level, like, this is your job.
It's a job.
Right? Yeah. So they saw my talent. They saw that I was good enough. They brought me to be there. Yeah. Now I'm here. So what is my job? To excel, to perform, to do what I was brought to do. And that is one thing that, like, I see, sorry to segue, but that I see a lot in generations right now with any sport, is that they say, like, well, you never tell me when I do a good job. Well, you never gave me a high five. At least I did this. Well, but at least I landed on my feet. At least, wait a second. You are here to do it. You are here because you're good enough to be here. Yeah. You are here because you were selected to be a part of this team. So all the resume, all the job description, you have already excelled. So no, coach, yes, it's great to be like, give you a high five once in a while, tell you good job. Yes. But you have to remember that as your coach, we're going to celebrate those victories when we see you succeed on the field, on the mat, in the court, in the pool, wherever your sport is. We're going to be there and we're going to hype you up when we see you succeed, because that is what we have trained you to surpass the level when you first walked onto our team, right? So it is not our job to tell you, hey, good job at every little thing you do. It's to remind you, hey, remember that you were brought here for a reason.
Yes.
You're not doing that right now.
Amen.
You're not giving me the best attitude right now.
Yeah.
You're not having that touch with the ball that I know you can do.
Yep.
Because then when I am this way in our practice, you're going to excel when it really matters, which is your performance.
Exactly.
And I think that's just one thing that like coaches need to remember. That is your job. Your job as an athlete is to fulfill your role on the team. My job as a coach is to remind you when you're not doing it.
Yes.
So that you're always playing your absolute best. And when it gets to the moments that counts, you know you couldn't have trained better.
Yeah.
And that is when I'll tell you good job. That is when I'll hug you. That is when I'll tell you how proud I am, because I know the journey it took us to get here.
Amen.
Oh, we don't need a freaking high five and a damn fucking cracker, every time we do your job.
I know.
Yeah. So it's like athletes. It's not that we don't notice your progression. We notice your progression. That's why we push you.
It's expected of you. Like this is, here's the thing is it's already expected of you. And so whenever you go above and beyond, perfect. Whenever you hit it 10 out of 10, amazing. But whenever you're not doing it, you need a little fire lit under your ass.
Yeah. And athletes are going to be like, oh my God, it's that he hates me and he's picking up. No, it's that you're good enough to do what you were brought here to do, damn it. So do it.
Yeah.
New skills, new accomplishments. That's something to celebrate, but
And that's how greatness is made.
That is what changes first and second.
Yes.
That is what puts a winning team and a losing team. And you know what? In competitive sports, no, not everybody gets a blue ribbon.
No.
It is not.
No.
Because if everybody got a blue ribbon, we wouldn't have the friggin' Olympics. We wouldn't have the FIFA World Cup. We wouldn't have anything if everybody got a blue ribbon.
No, literally. And we can't do that. And I know that you and I come from similar upbringings, and so we're not about the life where everybody wins. Like this isn't participation trophy time. No. We're not doing that. No, we're doing you're gonna get what you deserve. And
if you want to have a kumbaya, go to summer camp. Okay. Sheesh, you can kumbaya all you want and play recreational sports for a week.
Exactly. Fine. That's good. It's
adult intramurals.
There you go. It's not for everyone. That's the thing. It's not for everyone. If people don't like your style of coaching, that's fine. You have this standard. Again, it's not for everyone. If you don't like it, that's fine. There are other coaches. You don't want to be at this level? That's okay. Don't.
Yes.
But don't waste my time. Don't waste your parents' time. Don't waste your parents' money.
Decide what athlete you want to be.
Yes. And do it in a timely manner.
Literally.
So, wow, tangent, but we could go on many more of those. So I mentioned what you do. Currently, right now, y'all don't know this, but Gio is a world traveler. I told her to send me an Excel spreadsheet specifically because I was like, I don't know when you're going to be home next. I don't know, and home by Miami or home to come visit your mom and dad or me. And so I was like, hey, can you send me a spreadsheet? Tell me why it was like a 2-month delay, because it was going to be Germany, London, Oklahoma, Arizona, Ohio, Texas for 2 seconds, but it's Austin. It's not Houston. And so I was like, do I go up there? Do I not? Like, how do I get, she's a hot commodity and she's my best friend and I want to see you. I thought about making the Austin trip, but I was like,
we had an Airbnb. You could have come.
I couldn't have.
Slept 10. Surgery.
Knee.
Fun fact, guys.
Yes.
I do have a torn ACL currently.
Yeah.
No surgery. I've been walking it right off.
Which
I am
possible.
not a medical professional, but as a testimony, you can live your life without an ACL. Is it sketch sometimes? A little bit, but don't try to run an Ironman.
Yeah.
That's my prescription. Siobhan is, much better than I, as she got surgery.
Well, finally, after some time, and I was like, I might as well get my yoga teacher training certificate and teach yoga in the meantime while I'm waiting for the surgery. But yeah, it is possible, fun fact, to live your life without an ACL. You do not need one. It doesn't.
If you're not trying to go back to sports.
Yeah, if you're not trying to go back to the sports, that's what I was going to say. It is essential if you're going to play, especially at a professional level. You do need it. It is essential. Otherwise, you're going to be dribbling the ball up the court and then spaghetti leg. Mm-hmm. So anyway, it is essential. But
off the records or any type of record, I might regret this when I'm 50. So to my 50-year-old self, I'm sorry that I put you through this.
I feel like you'll get the surgery eventually. It just takes a second. And I know, and if people thought that I never slowed down, this one doesn't slow down. So good luck. If you want everything, virtual training for the next 2 months. That's what it is. It's virtual training.
But that's why I can't get it. My job is literally to be up, moving, and choreographing routines and teaching people and grabbing shoes and showing grips. And so it's like,
yeah.
But I'm not doing the flips and the tricks and the skills. So it's like,
improvise. You'll learn. You'll make it happen. Gio's one of those people that just gets shit done. Like, it's not a, here's the thing. Gio is the friend that I would call if I was in jail. I'm not calling my parents first. I'm calling Giovanna Smith, and she's not going to answer the phone. So I'm going to dial twice, and then she'll like, oh, hey, what's up? I'm at Burning Man. I'm not supposed to be on my phone right now. And I'm like, what? Okay. But that's the type of friend Gio is. Also the type of friend Gio is if I have any dilemma in life, I'm like, crap, what do I do? Whether it's like, what dress am I wearing to this event? Or it's like, my friend's boyfriend screwed them over in this way. How do we plot revenge? Something of that sort. I'm like, I know, don't worry. I got somebody. 911. Giovanna Smith. Hey, are you busy? Yes. Anyway, cool.
The answer's always yes.
Do you have a suggestion for this? She'll give you an answer in like 5 minutes. Gio is one of the most creative people I know, and will come up with something on the fly every time without fail. So super reliable person. So,
I'm Olivia Pope.
She's a problem solver. That's what it is. On the resume, it's definitely what is it? High functioning individual, able to multitask at multiple things at once, and problem solver. To hire her, she can do anything. So that's the type of person Gio is. But back to your world traveling, is that you travel all around the world. What are you doing when you're traveling? Where do you go and what are you doing?
So I go to wherever I'm hired.
Okay.
So obviously coaches like reach out to me or to varsity to be able to work with them, and they hire me to do choreography all over. So I do high school choreography for the most part. I do like some all-star training.
Okay.
And I specialize a lot in skills training, right? So choreography is the one where you put the routine together of what they're going to be competing on any competition for 1 year. And so choreography is redone every single year because obviously your team like gains skills, gains experience. They always come back for something new. So at choreography, your goal is to retain the same teams and to be brought back next year and to create really that relationship with the coaches where it's like, this is how I can set you up best for success. And then you will leave that in the hands of the coaches and then they train them to the competition portion level, Okay. And so then once you watch them at a competition as a choreographer, you go full back to the beginning. You say, hey, okay, I saw that last year. We did good in this. We did good in that. Maybe like now you have more skill. Now you have more talent. Let's up this. Let's up that. So that is your goal essentially as a choreographer, right? And then for skills training, I specialize in reducing the margin of error. Okay. So a grip would be something that like would make or break a skill. You can twist the skill and your hand can rotate this way. Yeah. If you've got your finger out, your hand doesn't rotate all the way. It's going to tilt this way. Wow. And sometimes coaches just see something on a YouTube video or whatever, and they're like, that's what we want to get. But like, they don't know that it just come down to that. So that one of my specialties is that I teach cheerleading through a lot of math. So drawing, I have a whiteboard that like I literally carry in my backpack. It's this like little Amazon flip whiteboard.
Hold on, you're doing math in cheerleading?
Yes.
Why am I getting flashbacks to 4th grade Mrs. Garg's math class?
Because I hated math.
Yeah.
But I hated math because I was being forced to do it. And that's something that like anybody is like, if you're being forced to do something, you don't want to freaking do it.
Yeah.
But if it makes sense and it makes you better, then it makes sense. So I literally I will do certain skills and I'll have the kids record themselves and I'll stop it and I'll take a screenshot of it in that moment and I will draw the angles and lines for them to see where their body should be versus where it is so they can visually understand through math and through angles and everything like that why the skill is not being executed. And that is what I travel all over the world is to doing things like that.
That is crazy and niche, right?
Yeah.
Like it's very specific and people are like, oh, I didn't know that existed.
I actually run, I just started this project with a company called VidZing, but I actually run a project called the Cheerleading Textbook. And it's going to be segments where it shows you how to like technically execute something textbook perfect as if you were seeing a formula being written for it. Because like you can solve anything however, but on the textbook it says that this is how we should do it. Yes. And technically the textbook way is the perfect way to do it, right?
I love this.
And so that is where that's kind of the angle that I'm taking with this channel, is doing it's called the Cheerleading Textbook by Coach Gio, and it's showing how to do things technically correct in the best technique possible so that you can progress a lot faster in the sport. And I hope to give that to a lot of international teams so that they can also progress faster in the sport. And the U.S. will have competitors that are catching up to that same skill level versus being the dominating country in the sport, even though there's a lot of countries that have caught up quite a bit.
Yeah, I was going to ask how do the rankings work? Because is there, right now there's not professional cheer, or is there?
No, I mean, the closest thing there is ICU, which is the International Cheer Union.
Okay.
And that is essentially run as the Olympics right now. There is one team from each country.
Okay.
Okay. And then one team from each country shows up at this competition and competes for their country. There's usually an all-girl team and a co-ed team.
Okay.
And then there's 2 divisions.
Question: Can people from the all-girl team compete in the co-ed?
No,
it's two separate.
2 separate teams. So, for example, I coach Team Netherlands all-girl.
Okay.
And it's also like the elements and everything performed, right? But that is essentially the Olympics right now. There's an opening ceremony. People walk out. Each country walks out. Their flag comes out. I mean, it's like a massissive thing at Disney. Okay. And that's how you know it's huge. I mean, it's in the Mouse House, dude. Okay. The Mickey Mouse Clubhouse is owning this event right now. And so in this competition, one thing they've done to really push other countries is they compete in in an elite division and a premier division. So if your country wins elite, then the next year you must compete in premier. Ooh. So you might be the bottom in premier, but it'll force you. It has forced countries to be like upping their game every single year. I mean, there's countries right now like Sweden and Canada and Colombia and Finland are just Norway, massively improving. Germany is amazing right now. Austria is amazing. But it's because Brazil, I worked in Brazil. And so that change of level where you can't just win elite every year. You can't be the reigning champion every single year of this division. And this is the only competition that does this way, where you can't keep competing in the same division, is only done to push these countries to catch up to what the sport obviously developed here in the U.S. So it's been a developmental thing where it got to that side of the world later. And so this division split has really forced countries to catch up.
So it's elite and then premier. But in premier, you can keep winning the top, right? Okay. And is there a team that dominates right now?
The U.S.
Wow. Who falls second and third?
Finland for all girl.
No way.
Finland, I mean, those girls are just insane.
That's cool.
But Team USA is all the best of the best. Wow. So those girls are untouchable in a sense in the sport, because it's imagine every college cheerleader who's incredible tries out for this one team that has, I've never counted, but 20 to 30 people, right?
Okay.
So you are in the top 30 females of the entire country, and the sport is massive. So you can imagine how incredible they are.
Yeah, that's highly competitive. Holy cow.
And then there's the co-ed team, which is the same process.
Wow. Yeah. I love it. That's so competitive.
It's a world that people don't even know,
Yeah.
But right now the Olympic channel and the Olympics has really been pushing to figure out a way. It's been recognized as a sport officially to put it into the Olympics.
Yeah. And it's going to be, right? Is it official?
I mean, I cannot give fake news, and people will comment too many aggressive things. So I am unsure, because then people are going to fact check so hard in these comments and be like, well, actually, and so I actually don't know the answer.
Well, I can say that because I don't know, but I'm pretty sure I heard from a bird that it's going to be the next Olympics.
Well, we can all hope so, because that will definitely give cheerleading the recognition it deserves.
Yeah, because you mentioned this at the beginning, like you said that the Netflix movie or series Cheer, which is funny because we know people in there because it was in Texas. Hilarious. Yeah. But I actually, even though I went to some cheer classes or sessions, and I went to your competitions every now and then, I really didn't actually this is me being honest. I didn't have that much respect for the sport because I did not understand. I did think that cheer was rah, rah, rah. Okay, you support the teams. And that cheerleading seems a bit easier, which I think we can agree that it is.
That is a personality thing.
Right. Yeah. Next, this is true skills. That's actually very tough. And the amount of hours put in blew my mind in that Netflix show. I was 8 hours a day, 6 hours a day. That's that's a full-time job.
You know what? This is the perfect experience. this has not been done on a podcast. Taylor.
He's not going to come over here. Don't put him in the camera.
I need your shoe. For real. Yes. This has never been done on a podcast, but I think it's important that we do this.
Just throw it. You better catch it.
Just throw it. Yeah. But I better catch it. Okay. So I just want everybody to take this into consideration for 2.5 seconds. Okay. So for example, you lift people up. The correct way to grip someone is like this. Okay. Right? So you are tossing them feet into the air, launching these humans, having them spin, twist, and hoping that they land like this. Because if they land like this, what do you think is going to happen with that weight shift?
Oh, someone's going to fall.
It's going to go that way.
Yeah.
Right? So like even the way you're placing your fingers is going to determine if this person stands on you or if they fall over. Wow. If you catch it like this, it seems stable, but look how much of the foot isn't being gripped. So what's going to happen? She's going to fall over. So you're saying like defy gravity, now flip and twist, make sure your positioning is right, get ready for impact and catch this human to a perfection, because if your arms bend, now you didn't catch it to perfection, right? Your arms weren't locked out. Deduction.
Dude, over and over again. I mean, it sounds exhausting.
So that's the practice level. It's like you're practicing to get that perfect catch, that perfect grip, that perfect defiance of gravity every single time.
Also, I had a question while you were doing that. Are people allowed to have acrylic nails when they're cheerleading? I would feel like no, right?
Okay, they're allowed to. I don't let my girls have nails. Sorry. I don't hold people anymore. Don't forget.
But they would break a nail for sure.
They're not illegal. Jewelry is illegal, obviously, because it can be snagged out of your body. But like illegal to the point where if they see an earring, a string, a bracelet, or whatever, deduction.
Wow.
They have someone that checks for jewelry.
But you can wear nails or have long nails?
Yeah, you can. It's not recommended, but that's a choice. And if they get ripped, that's a choice. And has it happened? Yes.
Yeah, no. That was my...
Yes. Is it the worst pain I've ever felt in my life? Absolutely. I thought I was going to pass out. So it hurt worse than tearing my ACL.
Oh.
I'm not kidding.
Oh. Your fingers like throbbing. You're like...
No. My entire nail ripped off, the whole thing. The real one, not the acrylic. To the bottom. It was dramatic.
That's painful. But...
So don't wear nails. Period.
And another thing, okay, I don't know. So describe the point system to someone who has no idea. Me, to a kindergartner.
So that part is really dodgy, right? Because...
Okay, give me a general overview then.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the... People will hate that I say this, but that is one of the issues in the industry right now. That's actually one of the talks. That's one of the talks of why it's not in the Olympics right now, right? It is a bit inconsistent, and it can be. And at the same time, it's like... Essentially, it can be quite subjective. And I know that will cause a riot that I've said that, but it can be quite subjective. You get me?
Yeah.
There's no, in that's actually one of the things that does make me as a coach, like not love, is that there isn't a set scoring system.
Okay.
Like if you score a goal, it is 1 point. It is 1 point every time that it goes into that box.
Yeah.
If if you score a touchdown, it is 7 points every single time, or is it 6 points?
Fine.
One with the field goal.
Correct.
Okay. But like total, like it will be 7 points that entire time.
Yeah.
So in cheer, it's like, oh yeah, that was a really hard skill. We're going to give it this difficulty. But it's like technique and execution is one category and difficulty is another one. So like you can throw a really freaking hard skill, right? Super hard. But your technique and execution is really low. So now you have a total of, I don't know, versus someone who might do an easier skill and hit it perfect. Yeah. So their difficulty is lower. Yeah. But their technique and execution is really high. Okay. So now you've set up in a place where somebody with less skill might beat you. Damn. But it's got to be fair that way. Yeah. At the end of the day, don't throw hard skills you cannot do perfectly, right? Wow. Now, if you throw the hardest skills and you execute them perfectly, you are the best. Yeah. And that's point blank period. Wow. Yeah. Cool. So that's the easiest way to describe.
And is it always 2 minutes, 30 seconds? Is that like standard, or are there different times?
2 minutes and 30 seconds total. Yes, in school cheer, it's usually 1 minute and 30 of music and 1 minute cheer. Because in school cheer, you do have to say a crowd leading segment. Okay. It's like, hey, on this side, yell red, yell it red. And it's like sign work and everything. And it's 1 minute of like crowd leading. And they judge it based on like, could someone follow a cheer with you saying it one time? Okay. Huh. And this is like just high school and college. Gotcha. And and ICU. So high school, college, and ICU all do this style of cheer. Club cheer, since they don't do actual out loud cheers, it's just 2 minutes and 30 seconds of music.
Okay.
But everybody else is 2 minutes and 30 seconds with the cheer segment.
Wow. All right. Very cool.
Yeah.
Dang. So how many hours of work? Okay, no, actually, let me back up to what you do. When somebody hires you to go and teach them choreography or a sequence, or what would I actually call it?
A routine.
A routine.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. When someone hires you, they're like, I want you to come and teach me a routine, or my team a routine. How, like, to my understanding, you teach them, you're like, bye. Or is it like ongoing corrections?
I'm actually about to make a video about this. And I think I talked to you about this in the car.
Okay.
So being a choreographer is like such a double-edged sword in a sense, right? Because it's like you watch a team, you see what they can do, you see their talent level at the time that you are there. You see their potential at the time that you are there. Okay, you're not going to give them something that you know that they are not going to be able to get feasibly, right? But you might push them a little bit to be like, work towards this, right?
Yeah.
So you do this routine and then you leave it in the, like you have set them up for their best.
Yes.
And then you're going to leave it in the hands of their coach, right? You have to hope that their coach will set them up and continue to work them so that they can reach what you set them up to do.
Okay.
Right?
And everyone, like, this is the way that I'm envisioning it. You fly out to Booneytown, Oklahoma. You go for a little 3-day camp. Gio's in town. Everyone show up on time. This is the real deal. Are people like putting cameras everywhere? Like they're recording this, surely.
No, there is no cameras. I've actually had a few of them be recorded. You'll see them on my Instagram, but no, it's just them and me, and we teach on the spot. And I push these kids really hard because I want to leave and their coaches be like, oh, I know exactly what that was supposed to look like.
Okay.
So I don't just teach and say like, sometimes a choreographer will teach a routine and just,
peace out.
Be able to like leave. And they're like, oh, just work on it, just fix it, just clean it. I push them from the second I walk in to the second I leave. And I tell them, I give a pregame speech every time I show up for a skills camp at choreography. I'm like,
how does it go?
I'm going to do my whole speech right now.
Hi, I'm Siobhan. I go to Oklahoma.
No, I walk in and I say,
town.
I go, okay, I do the same speech every time. I go, hi, everybody. I'm Coach Gio. As you know, we're going to have a few tough days ahead of us. We have a lot to get done in a short amount of time. So I need everybody to be fully focused and locked in. I want to start from the very beginning. I do not do crying at all whatsoever. I have a very specific list of things to cry about. And I go over this list with them. And then I say, I need everybody to understand that, like, I'm not here for a bad attitude. I'm not here for uncoachable athletes. Save the drama for your mama. And the last time I checked, it is not me. I'm like, I am here to make you your best, to push you to be your best that we possibly can in the next 3 days and to set you up for success. So I need you to be with it. I need you to be on board with that. And I need you to be flexible, because if I move you to a different position, you need to be able to fulfill that role, because I know it is what's best for you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so it's going to be a tough 3 days. It's not going to be a Mickey Mouse experience. I am not a Mickey Mouse experience, but I'm telling you guys all this right now so that when you see this side come out, that forces you to rise to excellence. You don't say, oh my God, she's so mean. No. I told you I was crazy. I told you I was like this. And so I prepare these kids mentally from the very beginning before we even do anything.
Yeah, they know the expectations.
Anytime that I'm like this, they don't say, oh, it's because she hates me. Oh, it's because she's so mean. No. It's because she expects better, And so that really usually makes me feel good as I leave any choreography or skills camp, because I've set you up in your bar of excellence right now. And so then it's in the coach's hands to train that.
Yeah.
And to keep pushing them to be competition ready of excellence. But you've at least already set the bar.
Yeah.
And so that is one thing. It's like, yeah, I could go in there and be like, oh, let's just like have fun and like get this done, y'all, and like have a great time. But it's like,
let's be serious.
Then I'm going to walk out and you're going to have so much more work to do than if we set a bar of excellence and then we have fun.
Yeah.
If we show you your true potential and I make you recognize it, and then we have a good time because you're doing it every time. Yeah. That's fun.
I like that.
That's the type of fun I want to create.
Nice. And let's go back to your no crying rule.
Oh my God.
What am I not allowed to cry about?
The no crying list is famous. I mean, it is on my Instagram. People have asked me to make t-shirts about the no crying list, right?
We can make it happen.
But the one thing is, I've never said this on camera, and I've never said this to anybody actually, but there's a psychological reason that I created this list.
Endearment.
So I'm going to tell you guys now, the secret's going to be out, but the no crying list includes only 3 things. Number 1, broken bone or dislocated limb. That is very viable to cry about, right? Number 2, the death of an animal or person.
Fair.
Viable to cry about. Number 3, winning a championship.
Okay.
That's it. So your stress, We're not going to cry about it. Oh, you're tired? We're not crying about it. You're frustrated? We're not crying about it. Your boyfriend broke up with you? We're not crying about it. No, it is not on the list. So every time, so here's the psychological reason that, like I said, I've never told anybody, but I created this list because those 3 things are viable to cry about, right? And so when you're coaching athletes so many times, when I tell them the speech, I can see their eyes and they go like this.
Yeah, I'm seeing everyone with like their jaw
looking
dropped.
at each other like, oh my God, this psychotic lady is here, right? And we're not allowed to cry and whatever. But I even do this to young kids. I do this to teams with 4 or 5-year-olds on it, right? But I do it different. I'm like, hey, everybody, like, let's put our fingers up. And all right, number 1, repeat after me. So I make it like a more fun experience. I know how to cater to my audience.
Yeah.
But the reason I create this list is because athletes are so quick to like get a little bit tired and frustrated. And like all of a sudden, the slightest hit, they're out for the count. And we're crying. Or like, we're so frustrated that we're just going to stay here and cry because we're frustrated and whatever, I just wanted to hit. Like, crying doesn't solve it, right? And so I do this list because in the mix of like, oh my God, and in the mix of these are the 3 things on the list, it allows athletes to create a mindset of like, is this really worth crying about? Yeah. Right? And so it develops a mental toughness without you having to practice it. And that's why I created this list. If you break your bone, there's no way you're not going to cry. Yeah. If you hurt your ankle to the point where it's like a ligament torn, I as a coach know there is no way you're not going to cry. But then I know what? That's a viable injury. Yeah. We need to, or is it the one where I stepped a little wrong, I'm having a rough day, I'm having a rough practice, and now I'm going to cry about it because my ankle hurts. Yeah. Like it just teaches a mental toughness without them really focusing on it, right? Because they're too focused on this list of like things they're scared to do. But you start seeing athletes have a rough practice, and instead of pouting and crying about it, they're like, let's go again. It's the pouting. Or you see, and how many times have you seen athletes like go through these little pouting sessions where you're like, you're just literally pouting. It's not because you're actually injured. It's not because you're actually not talented enough. It's not because you can't do it. Yeah. Right? You're having a literal pout. Yes. And so when with this,
and it's delaying you from getting to what you need to do, and it's wasting your time.
And guess what? At the end of the day, you're not hitting the skill, whether you're crying or you're not. The common denominator is what? You're not hitting the damn skill, right? So crying about it right now is not really making you hit, is it? Now you're just freaking crying, and you're not 6. You might be. But so that's why I did that list, because all of those things are viable things to cry about. And in an athlete's mind, it is a shock factor to them of like, oh my God, I'm not allowed to cry. But but it's just to reduce.
What if they cry, but they're still getting it done?
But that's the thing. You see a difference. You see the difference. You see the difference of the athlete who has a meltdown because they can't do it. And you see the one that's holding back that tear, pushing herself to do it. Because what's in their head? That damn list, right? Yeah. And so that's why I created it. In an instance for athletes to really be evaluate, is this worth crying about? Or am I just throwing away time? Yeah. Am I just having a pout? Am I a high school age student here with a tantrum because my ankle hurts a little bit? Yeah. Or is it an injury I can play through? Is my knee dislocated, or is it just because there's injuries you can play through?
Yeah, no, definitely.
And so that's why I created that list.
What do you tell people?
Resets.
Sorry. What do you tell people that like? Because I completely understand it, and I agree with your list. For me, like, I'm gonna be honest, I'm doing physical therapy. It's hard, it's tough, it's frustrating. And I shed a few tears the other day because I was frustrated, but I was doing it and I got it done. And I'm more of like a pout. I complain as I go, but I'm gonna do it. But I'm like, oh my God, no way you're making me do this, but I'm gonna do it. But what type of like, what margin of flexibility do you give your athletes to where, maybe like shit's going on at home. Maybe they just failed a class and they're stressed at school. And then now they almost didn't make it to practice because mom's going on a date and doesn't care about me and didn't take me to practice. And then now I can't, our team is sucking today. We're not hitting these things. And then now I just stubbed my toe. I'm pissed. This is my 13th reason.
Okay.
What advice would you give to somebody, because you've been there, where it's like, it was a tiny thing, but this is my 13th reason.
Again, so people are in my program and the athletes that I coach, I'm here to help you be ready for the world. Yeah. I am here to help you become an amazing human, because right now cheerleading is not a professional sport, right? So I'm training you. Yes, hopefully you'll get a college scholarship. We'll win championships. We'll do all of this. But I want to make sure you're set to be in the world. So if I let you have a 13th reason and a meltdown at my practice, what happens when you are a lawyer and have a 13th reason and you have a case to fight?
Fair.
Do you think your client cares that you stubbed your toe and that your boyfriend broke up with you and that your bills aren't paid? No. So what do you need to mentally do? You say, okay, you know what? Before this practice, I can be upset and I'm going to talk to my coach. I'm aware it's happening. During this practice, it does not exist. And after this practice, we can sort it out together. We can see what we can help at home. We can see why your grades aren't working. We can see why your friggin' toe needs a Band-Aid or not.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But if I teach you to allow outside factors to not let you excel at your job, you will leave to the outside world blaming the outside factors of why you didn't excel at your job.
Yeah.
And that's something I could have taught you when you were on my team. So no, we can talk about them before and we can talk about them after. But here, you only have one job to do. And I don't care about any of those things because your boss won't either.
Yeah. And I respect that. I really do. And I respect the training, like you're training the mind to think of these three things, especially in like your short day camp, which is, it's kind of difficult because some of these kids don't already come in with this mindset. They don't come in with that. Some of them, when you walk,
shock.
I was about to say, when you walk in, I'm sure it's a shock to the system. They're looking around thinking like, what the hell? Like also, what time do these camps start?
We usually start about 9 a.m., finish about 5.
Okay. So long day nonetheless. Yeah. But I was going to say like these kids are shocked to the system. They're looking around thinking, what the hell did we sign up for? What did coach sign us up for? But all that to say, in real life, obviously this is real life, but like when you go to the real world, you're doing something else. All of these training skills that you're preparing them for are applicable elsewhere. Yeah. On the court, in the, wherever you are, whatever you're working for and what you're doing.
This isn't sports specific.
Yeah.
This is athlete specific, human specific, employee specific. This is specific. And I'm, as a coach, you hold that you do hold that power to help your athletes through some rough times at home, through bad grades at school. And I am here for that. Yeah. But not during 3 to 6 when you're on my practice. You want to do it at 2:50? Turn me up. Do you want me to hold your hand and we can cry together? Yes. But at 2:59, you better be blinking those eyes 3 times because at 3 o'clock, we got a job to do. And then at 6 o'clock, 6:01, if you want to sit back in that chair and we want to have a powwow and draw what we can do to fix it, and you want to have that time, that is what I'm here for too. Yeah. And so it's easy for people to confuse it because of my personality and my coaching style. But my athletes know I am here for both. Yeah. But not from 3 to 6. Not from when you clock into your job. You know what I'm saying? And so that's going to prepare them when they get to their jobs in the real world. And I love that. And from a psychological perspective, we have this thing called high pressure training, which you train in high pressure situations because like for practices, right? At practice, like nothing's really on the line. You're not playing against somebody. You're not going to, if you lose this small-sided game, it doesn't actually matter. But you're going to train in the scenario that it's going to be like a game. So whenever you finally get there, it's second nature. Or you're training at the intensity that you're supposed to be training at. So you're doing the same thing, but mentally. Bro, that is my favorite thing too. That freak them out in like a practice. But like every athlete says this, right? It's like, I'll do it when I'm actually playing. Oh no, like yeah, it's like this here, but like when I'm actually at the game, I'll do it. No, or no, when I'm actually competing, like I'll do it. No, like you will always perform like you practice. Yeah, and that you cannot talk me out of it. Especially when you get adrenaline, when you have whatever. When people say like, oh, can I sit out? My ankle hurts so bad. But I'll do it when I perform. No, I need to know, can you play through this injury or is this an injury we need to sit you out from? Yeah. I need to know the difference. Yeah. Because if you can't practice, you can't play. It's true. And so I think that for coaches, it's like, you've got to be able to push. You've got to know, obviously, there's a limit of injuries and everything. You're not going to put your athlete's health at risk. But there's a moment that you've got to look at them as a coach and say, okay, I hear you, but no, this is a level of excellence. And until we reach this, we are not moving on. Yeah. Are you frustrated? Yep. Are you tired? Yep. Are you stressed? Yes. Here's the level. Yeah. Want to be not stressed? Reach it because you're good enough to do it. So go. And also another thing to think about for other athletes is like, you're not the only one. Like many times you think that this is like an individual experience that you're having. There are so many people going through the same things and they're pushing through as well. Not only that, it's like in cheerleading, that's one of my biggest things. Like, yes, you have injuries. Yes, you have lives. Yes, you have everything. But you're going to text me and say, hey, I can't make it to practice this day. And it's like, okay, one practice, right? But the other 4 or the other 3 people in your stunt group, what did they do for that whole practice? Stand like this. because you need 4 people to lift this girl up. Or sorry, 3 people and 1 person on top, right?
Yeah.
So like if one person misses practice because you had your dinner or this or that or the other, I understand that life happens, but now the rest of your group stood there for 3 hours when they moved their life around to make sure they were there at those 3 hours. And so it does also teach you in a sense of like being considerate of other people and their time, which I think is another great life skill to take into the world, right?
And
people lack consideration.
Being committed as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I don't let small things slide. I have, I do let them take vacations on set dates. I do let them do holidays. We have holiday breaks. We have everything like that. But we have a trainer during the holiday breaks. It's a virtual trainer, but we still train. Okay. And so a lot of people are like, this is a lot. This is a lot to commit to. This is a lot to do. Then don't do it.
Yeah. And yes, it is a lot, but you know what you're signing up for. And this is what it takes. We're telling you, this is the X, Y, and Z. This is the formula to get to where you want to get to. Take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it. So yeah, it's funny too, because I always say this side of me and this like passionate and whatever, like I've even seen you a couple times when I answer questions. Yeah. You have this surprised look on your face.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because everybody who meets me outside of my coaching world, I'm like fun and like a bubbly personality. I'm like the outgoing one. I'm always making jokes. I'm always the silly one. I'm always the one that's like, that friend. And so most people have never seen this side of me. Right. And I can see it even when I've answered certain questions that you're like, huh? Whoa, like I didn't know she was like that. And it's just like, it's that same thing as an athlete. Can you turn it on while you're here? And can you turn it off while you're not? Right. But the two don't mix. I can't coach the way that I am in the regular world because my athletes won't be successful that way.
Yeah. No, but I love it. And I love it. And the reason my eyes light up is because I'm in awe. Like, I think it's really cool. I obviously know you're my best friend, my, childhood best friend. And it's just seeing you flourish the way that you have. Like, I know you probably talk it down, but what you're doing is really fucking cool. It took a lot of hard work, especially behind the scenes. This girl doesn't sleep. She's the sleep when you're dead type of person. That's not for me. I'm a nice little sloth and I get my stuff done. Gio just makes things happen. And there's a reason that she is where she is. It's because of this mindset. And so that's why I wanted to bring you on. Obviously, I love you and I wanted to talk to you. But people have so much to learn from this because you are a high performing individual, and not just your sport, but in your career, in your friendships, in your, again, starting your own business, which we didn't even really touch on, which we can another time.
But everybody can go check it out. We'll tag it in the comments.
Exactly. But for me, it's like, it's so interesting because that's why I do what I do, because I love like just being a fly on the wall at a practice would be like, it'd be like a perfect work day for me. I would sit there and take notes. I'd see like how people react, what you said, what caught, what landed, what didn't land, like what worked. And that's what I would love to just like study and just replicate that over and over again, like to get to the perfection level or see what works and what doesn't.
Being a coach is like an honor. Like, you've got to realize that. Like, you get to lead a bunch of people in what they love, and you are who they trust. Yeah. Right? Yeah. They look to you. You're going to call the shots. You're going to call this. And so that's why, like, on this podcast, I did want to touch a lot on like what we could be doing as coaches. How are you, like, yes, we talked about cheerleading, but everything I talked about, like, in so many ways you can apply to other sports. And so if coaches from other sports listen to this, like, are you setting that bar of excellence? Are you pushing your athletes? Are you mentally setting boundaries to where they can become stronger? Are you setting them up for when they leave your sport to be in the real world?
Exactly.
What are you doing as a coach other than practicing your sport? Yeah. And that's what I wanted to be able to touch a lot on here on this podcast. I'm not saying I'm God's gift to this earth, but I think there's just so many things that you can learn from other sports. I could learn so much from swimming and from tennis and from, soccer. If I talk to those coaches that I could be doing to my own sport.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to touch a lot on that because I think we as coaches just have such an honor to lead kids and to lead athletes that it's like, are you doing your one job?
Yeah.
And if you're not, more than just a sport.
Yeah. And we can touch on that and we can end on the coaching topic because I think it's so crucial. Like I mentioned at the beginning, being a coach is like being a teacher. And sometimes it is a parent or mentor figure for those who don't have those. And it's so crucial. And I've talked about this on other podcasts with other people from different sports. Having one bad coach, you will remember that. They will impact you. Having one good... 5 bad coaches will super impact you. Having one good coach out of 6 total, that's going to change your mindset, or that's all it takes. That's all it takes to get you to quit it all it takes to get you to succeed. And you just need that one person. And so unfortunately, we have a lot of shitty coaches out there in that world. And it's disappointing. And we need some sort of like coaching and moral training program that everyone should go through, because it's so sad as an athlete to see people quit or say like, oh, I couldn't do this, or just the way that their confidence is affected, or just self-doubt because of their coaching experience.
I always like joke around that my girls have Stockholm syndrome. Do you know what that is?
Yes. I just learned about it the other day.
Yeah, you're like literally in love with your abuse, right? Okay, I don't abuse my kids, but like obviously I am rigid, I am militant, I am whatever. But my girls, like there's so many of them, and I can't say all of them. Yeah. I hope all of them, I hope all of them can see why I am the way I am, because I want to see them successful. Yeah. But there's one thing that like really resonates with me, is that some of my girls told me after being with me for 4 years, right? The last year they were like, oh my gosh, coach, you got so much nicer. You were not as strict as you used to be. And I'm like, that's where you're wrong. I never changed. You changed as an athlete. Yeah. You became a better athlete. You became a coachable athlete. I didn't get nicer. I don't have to yell at you if you do your job. I don't have to get onto you if you're at the bar of excellence. I don't have to ask you to do more if I can tell you're giving your all. I don't need to do those things. So I didn't get nicer. Mm-hmm. You became a better athlete. Yeah, you became more resilient, and they adapted to your coaching style. And I love that. That's one of my biggest wins for me, as a coach. It's like, oh, you got so much nicer. No. You got better. You hold yourself to the bar of excellence that I set for you the day I walked in. And now that's where you stand. Yeah. So I didn't get nicer. You got amazing. You got better. you became that bar of excellence, and you didn't drop down. That's why I got nicer. That's beautiful. Snaps for you. I like to normally close out by giving my guests the floor of kind of, you can either say like a quote, you can give me like your 4 pillars. You can say, this is what I want you to remember. If you took anything away from this episode, it's this, or you can give a shout out, and it doesn't have to cut off as soon as you finish. But so for me, like my 4 pillars, or what I hope everybody gains from my podcast, is one, understanding honesty. So we're always speaking in honesty. We're always being authentic. We're teaching resiliency, and then hard work. So throughout this whole podcast, you can hopefully gain the mindset behind that. But for you, again, I kind of put you on the spot, but is there anything that comes to mind that you want someone to leave remembering, or I think number one, I want to talk to coaches in any sport. That's what I want to leave with, right? Never ever stop learning, because every time you keep learning, you keep getting better. Yeah. And the day that you think you know it all as a coach and that you can't learn from somebody, you need to stop coaching, right? Because you can always be better. You can always grow more. Number 2, don't forget that your athletes wait for you to show up. Yeah. So if you're having a bad day, if you're going through a bad breakup, it is not up to them. Every time you show up, they expect that their leader to lead them to what they love is there to have a great practice. So I know it gets tough. I know it's mentally draining. I go back-to-back choreos, back-to-back skills camps. And every time I have to show up and be like, my day 1 here, even though I'm on day 48 here, it's my day 1 here in Arizona. And it's my day 1 here in Miami 2 days later. Yeah. And so stay being your day 1 energy and your day 1 coaching for every athlete, because that's what they deserve. If you're pushing them to be your best, you need to be bringing your best, right? Yeah. And so those are the things. And then lastly, I actually enjoy doing this so much that I would really want to leave with knowing what else somebody would have wanted to know about, what else somebody would have wanted to ask, what more could I have touched on? Obviously doing even more podcasts with you, or doing my own video on my social media. Like, is there anything else that you would have wanted to touch on or learn, or maybe something you want to tell me that I should take into my coaching? Yeah. I'd love to get that below. Nice. So, yeah. Drop a comment or ask any question. We'll link Gio's Instagram, website. Good luck catching her, because it's impossible. We will make it work. I just need time ahead. I know, time ahead, or I'll just plan a flight to wherever you are and show up in this random city in West Virginia. Yeah. But I did want to say, I'm going to put you on the spot for the last question. How do you do it?
How do you do everything? How do you, like, seriously, you are go. I do see a little bit of behind the scenes. I know that life hasn't been the easiest for you. How do you do it? How do you wake up every day and show up like it's your day one?
You have to create that. So I spend a lot of time alone, right? And so I started kind of realizing, like, obviously we've had friends that have gone through some very difficult times recently and whatnot. And like, how do you get to that point, right? You get to that really low point. Well, once you're at that low point, it's like, how do you get yourself out? If you've got to call someone to get you out, yes, your friends and family will always be there. You'll always have a support, right? But you need to figure out yourself.
Yeah.
What do you do when you're stressed? What's stressing you out? Are you just stressed? Oh, I'm just stressed. So much is going on. What's going on? Oh no, I'm just so overwhelmed. Why? What's overwhelming you, right? And so I started doing this thing where I like write out everything overwhelming me. Good. And then I see okay, is this worth it? No. What's the and then I write every solution, the good and the worst that could happen to each one. And so I allow myself to analyze these things on my own so that I can figure out how to recreate my own mindset, recreate my own energy constantly. Because if I depend on others to do it, or I depend on I just need sleep, I just need a water, I just need this, no, you just need to reset this. Mm-hmm. You just need to choose that you're going to do it.
Yeah.
Because you know what? First of all, I love what I do.
Yeah.
And so I have to remind myself that I'm so lucky.
Yes.
I get to do the one thing I freaking love.
Yeah.
Yes, is it tough? Yes, is it draining? Yes. But then why do people hire me?
Yeah.
Because they can feel that sometimes, right? Because they know that I might teach them something that they haven't taught themselves or whatever. And so then I remember that. They believed in me. Mm-hmm. They wanted me to come. They wanted me to be there. So what do they deserve? 100%.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if I'm tired. They believed in me. And it doesn't matter if I chose to not sleep the night before or if I chose to have 15 projects. And then in those 15 projects, if I took them on, then what do they deserve? My 100%. If not, then what? Don't take them on, right? So it's like I've chosen to do this lifestyle, so I have to choose to keep choosing it, to keep choosing to have the energy, to keep choosing, because everything in life is a choice, right? I can choose to be negative, or I could choose to be positive. I could choose to be too tired, or I could choose to have energy. I could choose to give you 100%, or I could choose to blame it on the fact that I'm having a bad day.
You really can.
And so I think that is what really just keeps me going, because all these people around me believe in me, and I can feel it and I can see it. And so they deserve my best. And if I don't give my best to everything, then I won't become my best, right? I'm not at my best yet. But if I don't give it to my all and my best, I won't become that. And that's what keeps me going. And being able to self-evaluate, what am I going through and why? What am I doing to resolve it, or am I just talking about it?
Yeah.
Because that doesn't help anything, right? You've got to figure out what you're doing to resolve the things that are bothering you.
Yeah.
And so I think in just the balance of all of this, and obviously I do have a very strong support system of my family and friends, but it's more of just choosing to become your best and choosing to do what you're doing.
I love that. And I'm going to make a cliche comment, but it's been at the forefront of my mind this whole time. And I've thought about it for months and months, especially when planning this episode.
Are you about to be cheesy?
No, yes and no, but it's it's on brand. I was going to say, you have to create the mindset so you can be your own cheerleader. And whether...
Wow, okay, that was really cute.
But I figured this out when I was in college, because I was I was down one time, and it's the same thing where you were like, yeah, you can call someone and you can do this. But honestly, at the end of the day, mom and dad's not going to be on the field. Mom and dad's not going to be right next to you in your ear. Your
mom
best
and dad's not going to be there forever.
That as well. Or your best friend too, things happen. There's not always going to be somebody in your ear helping you. And yeah, it's great when it happens, but you have to do it for yourself. You have to train your own mind to think certain ways, because when they're not there, who's there? It's supposed to be you. So the whole thing is be your own cheerleader, create your own mindset, know yourself well enough to be able to reset whenever you need to, or to give yourself the things that you need, because you know yourself that well, and be your own cheerleader.
We're all going to go through hard moments.
Yeah.
But what's the key in that? It is just a moment.
It's a moment.
Every moment passes.
And it's temporary.
You might feel like you're drowning. But guess what?
Temporary.
Eventually, you're not going to be drowning anymore. So it's you've got to swim through it, right? You've got to just swim through it.
Nemo.
I think doing Mind Goals by Chefs is actually, I just thought about it right now when you said it, it's the best thing you can name a podcast like this. Because the way an athlete becomes amazing, the way an athlete becomes resilient, the way an athlete builds character, the way an athlete becomes all of these things is by creating the mindset to do that, right? And so all of these points of views only help to create different mindsets, because ultimately that's what takes you to be the best. The training is only, 70%.
Yes.
No, opposite. The training is 30%.
Yes.
The mindset is 70.
Yeah. And it's so true. Like even with any injury, just to end, because my surgeon said this the other day, that returning to play, it's going to be 90% mental, 10% physical. Like, we fixed you. You're going to be okay. All you have to do is follow this protocol. 90% is, can you do it? Can you put yourself into a tackle again? Are you going to do what you need to be doing? Are you going to cry about it? Like, 90% of it is mental. And I learned that when I was like 18 years old.
And I think that you telling me with your PT thing and like when and going through this and what you're doing, and like when you go back, like that's going to be you standing on a field and saying, what do I choose to do right now? Mm-hmm. Am I going to choose to be frustrated? Am I going to choose to be stressed? Or am I going to choose to understand that I'm at a 10 right now, but I will build back up to a 70?
Exactly.
You get me?
Yeah.
80, 90,
and
100.
it's all this time, really, like, even though I've been out of sport right now, it's been training my mindset, everything I've been doing.
Yeah.
So I did want to end with that. I wanted to let you know that I'm very proud of you. Seriously.
Yeah. Well, I'm proud of you to see you doing this, dude.
And you too.
We like literally talked about this stuff. Like,
I know.
So it's like, again, people choose to either go for it or they don't.
Yeah. And we're people that just make shit happen.
Right.
So I love you so much. Thank you for taking the time out of your 72 hours to be here.
Well, no, thank you for making me a featured guest on this.
Oh, yeah. And whenever you're back in town, we'll do some sort of other episode, of course.
Yeah. I mean, if people have comments or things or more they want to touch on or talk about, like, I'm happy to do that.
Yeah.
I
would love that.
Yeah.
So thank you so much again. Love you. If there's anything else you want to say, we're signing off.
That's all.
Okay. Thanks. Bye, everyone. And have a happy Thursday.